Hey guys, let's talk about mental illness, specifically how charismatic churches respond to mental illness. By charismatic, I'm going to include Assemblies of God, Foursquare Church, UPCI, basically all the churches that fall under charismatic, which meaning that they hold the position that these spiritual gifts are available today, namely healing, speaking in tongues, prophecy, etc. So, about 1999, I'm going to say, give or take a year. It could be 98, could be 2000. I was in high school. I don't remember if it was junior year, sophomore year, what specifically. I just remember it was high school. My dad had a full psychotic break. By that I mean hallucinations. This was like paranoid schizophrenia. It was straight up, thought he was breathing smoke, and he would burst into the neighbor's house and accuse them of whatever. Like, it was a whole drama. I remember very specifically, I had just gotten back from going out on the outreach program on Saturday, and Dad was in the sanctuary, like running in circles around the church pews, and like he'd evidently been doing that for quite some time, and he was praying out loud very, very fervently, and evidently just couldn't take a break and give me a ride home, so someone else volunteered to drive me home. And didn't really think a whole lot of it at the time, but pretty quickly became apparent that this was, he'd gone all the way around the bend. It wasn't coming back. Essentially, like that evening, I think there was a group of basically deacons from the church that showed up at the house, and like they made a big show out of praying for him, and my uncle was there, and nothing changed. They're all like, oh yeah, we're gonna lay hands on him, and yeah, no. A couple days later, he got committed to the local hospital, and they got him on some pretty good antipsychotic drugs, and over the years, he got back to a relatively normal baseline. Like he could be functional, not necessarily like work a job and have a normal life, but be independent, take care of himself. So there was that, and there was also a good friend of mine. His mom just had some major trauma event relatively early in life, I think, and she did the same thing, went all the way around the bend, had the mental and emotional maturity of basically a 9 or 10-year-old kid, sort of. It was kind of weird. And there was a number of occasions like that where if a person had genuine mental health issues, one, the church would advise them not to go to psychiatry. They would advise them not to go to, to get psychotic drugs or whatever. It was like, we're going to pray for them, and if that doesn't fix it, then that's it. They aren't offering any other options. But this was a pattern where if you had mental health issues, it wouldn't get fixed. And the church would go through all these, they'd go through the rituals of prayer and laying on anointing oil and doing all this stuff. And sometimes they do that for years. Okay, some people got prayed for over a decade, and nothing changed. This was one of the clearest indicators that the faith healing is a complete sham. It's a complete show, and it's a farce. But for the people that are entrenched in it, they can't see that, and so they would just keep living with this relative that was clearly in need of professional help, and the only improvement ever came from drugs, counseling, secular medicine, not necessarily their faith healing. But the key issue was that the church doesn't like to acknowledge that they failed. They don't like to acknowledge that, hey, we've got this person that's not quite normal, and so that's like a threat to them because it shows that their system failed. And they'll do everything they can to kind of hide it, cover it up, whatever, like pretend it doesn't exist. And yeah, it's frustrating because this is where we live, right? This is my family, right? And it disappoints me that I didn't see through it at the time, that I didn't make more of an effort to call it out. But what are you going to do? You're a teenager and this is what you're brainwashed and indoctrinated in. Like, what choice do you have? So, yeah, I don't blame myself that much, but the real issue is just that mental health is a big enough problem as it is, with the stigma attached to it in the United States, the lack of proper support you get for mental health in the United States, the lack of funding for it, and then on top of that, you've got churches that are basically just trying to get you to not treat it, or to not treat it in the right ways. Because let's be honest, they try to treat it, just it doesn't work. And yeah, that's my experience with dealing with mental health on a close basis in the immediate family in the charismatic church. So yeah, leave a comment. Have you dealt with mental health in your family, and have you been in a charismatic church that basically tried to get you to avoid drugs, counseling, modern medicine? I'd love to hear the story, and I'm sure there's plenty more people just like me. So yeah, leave a comment, like, and share with your friends. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.